Chapter 4, The School Adventure and the Disasters. Autumn 1916. The air in Hagans was clear and salt-sprayed, filled with the scent of the sea and the smoke from the brickworks chimneys. Hunter stood in his neat little school uniform outside the worn schoolhouse, hand in hand with his mother, Signe. She patted him gently on the shoulder. "It'll be okay, Hunter," she said with a faint smile. Hunter nodded, but said nothing. A nervous worrying burned in his chest. Since moving from Giggle to Hagans after his father's outburst of anger and his mother's crying, he had not felt safe anywhere. The nights were still filled with nightmares, not just about his father Carl, who screamed, threw bottles and swore, but about Uncle Oscar. In the dreams, Oscar lay bloody in a field, looking up at the sky while the cannons roared. Hunter often woke up in a cold sweat, with a strangled scream in his throat. The first years at elementary school were relatively calm. The teacher, Miss Ingeborg, was strict but fair, and Hunter learned to read, write, and count, but he always felt different. When his classmates talked about their fathers who carpentry, fishing, or working at the mill, Hunter sat silently. His father was only there every other week, and then it was like walking a tightrope over a bottomless abyss. Dad Carl could be kind. He took Hunter to the harbor, taught him to throw stones in the water and buy hot dogs. But as soon as something went wrong, if Hunter happened to spill mustard or ask something too loudly, it would hit. A slap, a scream, a look that burned holes through Hunter. And so the weeks went by. A week in Mom's little cottage with embroidered curtains and quiet evenings. A week in Dad's smoky apartment in Helsingborg, where bottles were hidden behind cupboards and doors slammed. When Hunter started high school, things got worse. It was 1921. He was 10 years old, small for his age, with messy brown hair and a look that seemed older than he should be. The school in Helsingborg was bigger, colder, and filled with children from different social classes. Hunter felt like an outsider. Hunter. A boy in the classroom asked one day, "What the hell is that name?" "I don't know," Hunter said cautiously. "I got the name after my uncle, Oscar Hunter." "Hunter," the boy laughed. "What are you hunting? Your courage." The rest of the class burst into laughter. That's where it started. They called him Hunter the loser, foolish Hunter, the Englishman. They twisted his cap, hit his books, whispered as he passed. A few times they pushed him into the mud in the schoolyard. Hunter tried to hold back his tears. He got used to biting his lips. But one day, when a boy threw a paper ball at his head, it exploded. "Stop!" He shouted, stood up, and hit the boy right across the nose with his book. The boy fell backwards and bled. Hunter was given detention, and the principal sent a letter home. When he went to see his father the next week, Carl showed the letter, snorted, and said, "So you're fighting too, you idiot." "You're just like your mother." Hunter said nothing. He stared out the window until the world blurred. During the years that followed, Hunter carried a fermenting anger. Sometimes it would bubble up in small outbursts. He kicked cabinets, tore up papers, yelled at his teachers. Other times he exploded. Once he knocked over an entire table in the classroom. Another time he ran home from school and locked himself in his room for 3 days. His mother Signe tried to understand. She tried to talk, hug, comfort, but Hunter didn't want to talk. His voice felt stuck in his chest. Only in his dreams did he speak, to Uncle Oscar. Oscar, whom he had never met, but whose name he bore. Whose death in the war had become the beginning of Hunter's existence. In his dreams, Oscar would sit on a rock in a meadow, smile, and say, "You're stronger than you think, Hunter. You just have to dare to let it out." But when he woke up, all that was left was reality. School days filled with stares, whispers, and punches. Adults who didn't understand, and a heart that was tired. Despite everything, there were some moments of light. A girl named Elvira joined Hunter's class when he was 13. She had braids, freckles, and a way of looking at him without judgment. "Your name is Hunter," she said on the first day. "Cool, like an adventurer." He smiled, a real smile, for the first time in a long time. They started talking more. They sat next to each other, did group work, shared sandwiches at recess. Hunter felt something like security. Elvira sometimes defended him when others tried to bully him. She spoke up, bluntly and without fear, but Elvira moved away 2 years later. Her father got a job in Mount. Hunter waved her off at the train, a hole in his stomach. She gave him a drawing, a heart with his name in the middle. "Never forget that you are not alone," she said, hugging him. In 1926, Hunter graduated from school. He was 15, his grades were mediocre, his reputation still tarnished, and his heart bore more scars than a boy should bear. But he was also stronger than when he started. He had survived, made it through a childhood of fear, anger, and sorrow. He had fought demons both in his waking life and in his dreams. When he walked out of the school gates on the last day, it was raining. But he smiled anyway, because it was over, at least that chapter. What awaited him now: work, adulthood, a future he didn't know. But he knew he would never be like his father. He would never hit, never drink to the point of losing control. He had seen what that did to a family, to a child. And Hunter, the little boy with a name from a dead uncle and a heart full of storms, took his first step into a world that didn't yet know who he was. But he knew it himself, and it was the beginning of something new.